How to delete English Legos. In the introduction, you saw that there are a lot more English Legos than Hebrew Legos for the same verse. Hebrew doesn't need a lot of Legos that English has. You can delete them in order to get closer to the Hebrew and still maintain the meaning of the sentence. No present tense of the verb to be. First of all, in Hebrew, there is no is because Hebrew doesn't normally use the verb to be in the present tense. So you just lost a Lego. And you have 4-2 now. Psalm 23 to be. Read Psalm 23 right now. Just pause the video and find other places where the verb to be is used. See if you can find it. Just pause it, okay? I'll be back. Let's look at Psalm 23:4. That's where it was, okay? The only other verse in Psalm 23 that uses the verb to be is verse 4, okay? Let's just read it. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. But we can delete the word are there. That Lego isn't needed. And there it goes. It's gone. It's like it was never there. Okay, since Psalm 23 doesn't have any more examples, I thought I'd pull something from Genesis. So here we have Noah was a righteous man. It is in the past tense, but it's just, in this instance, it works just like if it were in the present tense. So what's going to happen? It's gone. It's deleted. So what we really have in the Hebrew now is Noah, a righteous man. Look at your new version of Psalm 23. Song attributed to David. The Lord is my shepherd. I will not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now let's look at Noah again. Noah was a righteous man. And we dropped the verb to be. And now, oh my goodness, we dropped another word. And that is called an indefinite article. I'll just let you know. So now read Psalm 23 and find other places where there is an indefinite article that needs to go. Just pause the video. Okay, here we have it. Psalm 23 verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Here we have the verse in Legos, this part of the verse. But something is going to happen. Watch. That's right. We have the verb actually goes at the end. And this is a Hebrew characteristic because Hebrew puts what is most important at the beginning. Okay, so they're emphasizing the table. So that goes first. Yes, the Lord prepared it and it was before me, but the emphasis here is that it's a table. But remember, you're prepared. It wasn't just like a table, a dining room table that you might have in your room. It was more like a picnic blanket that was arrayed in front of his enemies there on the desert. So you know what we have to do? We have to delete a Lego here. And there it goes. Okay, we've lost that indefinite article because we don't need it in Hebrew. So we have table before me, you prepare. So I thought I'd bring in this example in Genesis 41:12. And there was with us a Hebrew teenager. Bet you didn't think that there was a special Hebrew word for teenager. It means either teenager, young man, older than a child. And here we have this different way, Hebrew way of saying it, and there was with us. That wouldn't be exactly how we'd say it in English, but that's how we say it in Hebrew. And there was with us a Hebrew teenager. And of course, you know, a word has to go, it has to be deleted. There's our indefinite article, and it's gone. And there was with us Hebrew teenager. And now let's look at another verse. Genesis 41:12. This is one of my favorite verses. And the Lord appointed a great fish. Notice it's not a whale, it's a fish. Okay, so you know what word has to be deleted here, right? That's right, the indefinite article, ah. And now it says, and the Lord appointed great fish. Pause the video and read the latest version of Psalm 23. Let's look at the name of God. The Hebrew word for Lord is the ultimate name of God. It's not the Lord as Lord and Master, but Lord. Please treat his name with respect. So because it's his name, we don't need a definite article there, the. So it becomes Lord my shepherd. And that's just very important. We just use that word very carefully. So let's look at Psalm 23:1. Psalm attributed to David. Lord my shepherd, I will not want. In Psalm 23:6, the phrase highlighted here also needs the same delete process because it uses Lord's name. Hebrew doesn't have a separate Lego for definite article, so you can delete the other definite article here also. So now we have for Psalm 23:6, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Can you see another word in Psalm 23:6 that needs the delete process you used on this verse? There it is. It's gone. So now we have, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Now let's look at Psalm 23:4. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. This is the other verse in Psalm 23:4 that contains definite articles in English, but we will deal with this verse in the next lesson. Preparing for the next delete process. The next delete process is a little more advanced and takes you to the next step to see how Hebrew works. In order to take this step, we are going to change some of the English phrases in Psalm 23 so they reflect the Hebrew structure more accurately. These phrases are highlighted in red. Read over the psalm carefully. We will explain some of the changes in the lessons in this section. I'll read it now. Song attributed to David. Lord, my shepherd, I will not want. He causes me to recline in pastures of grass. He leads me by waters of comfort. He restores my soul. He guides me in trails of righteousness for the sake of his name. Although I walk through the valley of shadow death, I fear no evil, for you with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Table opposite my enemies, you have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. The little word of. As you can see, most of the verses in Psalm 23 have the English word of. It appears 8 times. More importantly, notice that in each case it is surrounded by a pair of nouns. These pairs of nouns work as a unit in Hebrew, and we'll get a special lesson on them later. But right now, you want to learn to recognize the English word of and delete it by leaving a connection for the 2 nouns. We'll take each verse in order, starting with the second verse. So we're looking here at, he causes me to recline in pastures of grass. He leads me by waters of comfort. The phrase green pastures is better translated in pastures of tender grass to reflect the Hebrew in the original language of the psalm. David wrote Psalm 23 in Israel, which is an arid country. In a country that has a large desert area, a shepherd would rejoice if he finds a pasture or a meadow for his flock. The only time he would see fresh, tender grass shooting up from the ground is at the beginning of spring. You have to realize this isn't England and this isn't Tennessee. This would be a great time for his sheep to graze on the tender grass. New grass is easier to recline on and relax. Summer comes early and the grass will grow fast and become brownish and hard in the heat. So you don't need the Lego of in Hebrew, so we delete it. So we have, he causes me to recline in pastures grass. He leads me by waters of comfort. Okay, we've eliminated of, but we keep the connection between the 2 nouns with that little line. Now we have on Psalm 23, 2b, he causes me to recline in pastures grass. He leads me by waters of comfort. The traditional version of Psalm 23:2 reads, besides still waters. The Hebrew word translated as still really comes from Noah's name, which means comfort. This was a resting place for David and his flock. He could recline and listen to the waves gently hit the shore. He could relax. By the way, waters is always in the plural in Hebrew. So here we have our delete process in action. But remember to keep the connection. Even though you lose that English Lego, the idea is still inside the Hebrew Lego, and we'll show you later how it works. Now let's look at Psalm 23:3a. He restores my soul. He guides me in trails of righteousness for the sake of his name. Shepherds in Israel had well-known trails where they would guide their flocks. These were not just paths that you walk on. These trails had been used for years by the shepherds and were considered safer for the sheep. David is using this allegory to show that the Lord guides us in the safer way using well-worn trails of righteousness. You could say that the Lord guides us toward righteous trails, which keeps us out of harm's way. He guides us on the right trail, trails righteousness. So let's just look at the delete process here. Lose the of, and we have entrails righteousness. Okay, now we look at Psalm 23:3b. In the first lesson, we discussed the sacred name represented by the Lord in English. We said that the name stands for mercy, kindness, and love. In the Hebrew Bible, the concept of someone's name goes beyond what they are called. It encompasses their reputation, their attributes. So just remember that when you read this. So we're going to get rid of two Legos here. Okay, we have also the direct object plus the of Lego. Okay, so now we have, he restores my soul. He guides me in trails righteousness, forsake his name. Now let's look at Psalm 23:4. This is really important. In Hebrew, shadow of death is really one compound word, shadow death. This word is also found in Job 38:17. Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the doors of the shadow death? David has lost track of the safe trails righteousness and finds himself in a deep gorge that is so dark he can't see the sun. He's in danger. This is not one of your regular trails of the shepherds. By deleting of English Lego, you could say David is in valley shadow death. So we will delete the two unnecessary English Legos here. We have the definite article and of, and now we have through valley shadow death. Although I walk through valley shadow death, I will fear no evil. For you with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And in Psalm 23:6a, in the English translation, Psalm 23:6 uses the word of 3 times. The first instance is in the second phrase. So you use the delete process in your mind right now on the unnecessary Lego. Okay, so here we have it. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days my life, and I will dwell in house of Lord for length of days. Okay, so let's see how that happens. And there we have it. All days my life. In Hebrew, just for an FYI here, the word for life is like the word for water. It's in the plural, although I'm not going to show it here because I think it would be a little bit weird, my lives. But what it means is that the Hebrew doesn't use the plural quite like we do. Sometimes it just uses it to show a real greatness or, to emphasize something. You'll see that in another very special word when you take other Hebrew courses. So now let's look at Psalm 23:6b. Okay, this is the second instance in the phrase on the third line, and house of Lord. Use the delete process on the unnecessary Lego. Okay, so what are we going to get rid of? We're going to get rid of that Lego. So now we have in-house Lord. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days my life, and I will dwell in house of Lord for length of days. Remember that the name of the Lord is sacred and should be treated with respect at all times. And also, any place that the Hebrew word for Lord is written should be treated with respect. Now we look at Psalm 23:6c. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days my life, and I will dwell in house Lord for length of days. Okay, so the traditional English translation of the phrase of 23:6 is just one word, forever. But it doesn't fully represent what's going on in the original language, Hebrew. We have given you a more accurate translation. Notice that the word days is mentioned twice in this verse. David may have written it in that way in order that you would connect the two ideas, that goodness and mercy shall follow him all of his days, yet David will dwell in the house, Lord, for the length of his days. Okay, so we have a delete process going on here. For length days, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days my life, and I will dwell in house, Lord, for length days. Okay, so this is the result of the delete process on Psalm 23. Read this version of Psalm 23 aloud a few times so you can get used to the new wording, and then do the exercise in the workbook, and then you'll be ready for the next session. I'll read it with you right now. Psalm attributed to David. Lord, my shepherd, I will not want. He causes me to recline in pastures, grass. He leads me by waters, comfort. He restores my soul. He guides me in trails, righteousness. Forsake his name. Although I walk through valley shadow death, I will fear no evil, for you with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me, opposite my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all days my life, and I will dwell in house, Lord, for length days.